Okay, we're ready.
I'm going to call the iBisbee committee to order. Today is Wednesday, September 18, 2019. In attendance today, Stanley Stern is here, Denise Lowe's is here, Rob Page is excused, Kathy Snowden is here, and Carrie Gustafson is here. Stephanie Peavy is excused. David Smith, council liaison, is here, and Nina Williams, staff liaison, is present. In our audience today, we have Joan Hanson, City Council member, and we're joined for their presentation by Jen Lurie, Rachel Hudson, and Bridget Shanahan. Did I do that right, Bridget?
You got my name right, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So what we're going to do is, there is no call to the public present, unless, Joan, you have something you want to talk about. And we're going to move on to the approval of the minutes. The minutes of May 15, 2019. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
A second, please.
I'll second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The minutes for July 17, 2019. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
I'll second this one.
All in favor, please say aye. Okay. Today's meeting is something that we've looked forward to, which is the presentation by, I'm going to see if I do this right, Dog, Cat, and Mouse?
Yeah.
Right, Medium Company, regarding the marketing plan for Bisbee for the year 2019-2020. So Jen, I'm going to turn it over to you and move forward with the presentation.
Great, thank you. We're happy to be back here and present the new marketing plan for this year. So again, this is Dog, Cat, Mouse Media. I'm Jen Lurie, Rachel Hudson,
And I'm Bridget Shanahan. Okay. How do you click it? Just over there. Okay, so we're really excited to show this to you guys. This is our plan or strategy for the Bisbee marketing campaign for the fiscal year 2019-2020. So we've been thinking, listening, watching the Bisbee community as to how, from where we started, how that has went over in the community with our visitors. The iBisbee campaign has really kind of, it took off, and we saw a lot of engagement with that hashtag especially, and just a lot of positive feedback. So we want to pivot from this previous campaign, keeping the same branding elements and flavor, but changing it to a new message. So, people describe Bisbee using words like unique, quirky, weird, bohemian, artistic, inspiring, historic, charming, etc. We ask ourselves, why? Well, it's because of the people that live and create here in Bisbee that make it that way. What better way to show visitors the experience they might have by introducing them to the heart of Bisbee, the creators that make Bisbee out of the ordinary. Bisbee, out of the ordinary. Our new campaign
Is that going to be your slogan, Bisbee out of the
so
ordinary?
we're simplifying. Before we had be refreshed, be inspired, be out of bounds. We had a number of those, and so we want to simplify and just go with Bisbee out of the ordinary. We still want to keep using Be Bisbee, like that hashtag, but we kind of want to just like pivot from that and do something a little bit new, a little bit, freshen it up a little bit. So yeah, so this campaign idea is centered around the Bisbee locals who make Bisbee anything but ordinary. So we want to put a spotlight on our locals who are the creators and makers that make Bisbee one of a kind. Because Bisbee is not powered by chains and corporations, we are a network of small businesses, entrepreneurs, creators, and makers. So we are retelling Bisbee's story through the eyes of the people that live here. And we have kind of distilled down to these categories that align with the Arizona State Office of Tourism, like branding pillars. So through telling people's stories, we want to touch on all of these categories, so which include outdoors, hiking, wellness, culture and arts, history and heritage, entertainment, food and drink, families, and events. So going into the website refresh, on our homepage, we have the 3 reasons to visit Bisbee. So we want to not only make sure that's fresh every month to have like this month 3 reasons to visit, but we want to tell a story behind each of those things. So not only just list an event, but you can click on it and read about the person behind that event and the nonprofits involved with that event. So just like connecting people a little bit deeper to what's going on in town. So something I'm really excited about is we want to overhaul all of the business and service listings into a database-friendly search platform. So right now, you go on to hotels, for instance, and you can kind of scroll through. It's broken into categories of Old Bisbee, Warren, etc. And so at the top of those pages now are going to be drop-down menus where you can search different criteria. So the first major criteria would be the different neighborhoods, but we're going to develop some other criteria like, pertaining to hotels or restaurants or whatever it is, like different types of restaurants, so different.
King size bed, pet friendly, child
Like
friendly.
TripAdvisor.
Yeah, so we just want to
have
make
that
it a
search.
little bit more interactive and search friendly, basically. Okay, and then, so here's a big problem with the calendar. Everyone's always asking like, what's the main calendar that we need to use? So we've kind of thought this over, and the main thing when we think about Discover Bisbee site is that our audience are the visitors who are looking at. So, and the purpose of the Discover Bisbee, what it's funded by is that bed tax. So that goal there is to get people to come and stay the night in Bisbee. So those are the events that we want to promote through Discover Bisbee, are those events that are going to come, bring people, and have them stay overnight or have them stay for the weekend. And then we also want to list to a community calendar. And so for that community calendar, we're going to be putting out like a public service announcement through the Discover Bisbee page of this is the community calendar and this is how you can post to it. And what that community calendar is, it's on the City of Bisbee government website. City of Bisbee, or
BisbeeAZ.gov.
yeah, BisbeeAZ.gov. So when you go into that website, Jason helped me, or he created, we were all thinking about this together. So there's different categories on that calendar. So we created a new category that just says community. So that can be open to anybody in the community to post to it, and then it goes to one of the admins of the calendar, and then they can approve the post, and then it goes live. So under that calendar, so there'll be community, and then there's like City of Bisbee stuff. And
Who controls the calendar?
so the admins of the city, so I think Nina?
It's me and Jason.
Yeah, so just you and Jason.
Ashley can too, but usually it's just
Cool.
me and Jason.
These are things like the yoga that's coming up at the library, or the films that are happening. Some of those, like the secondary events that are happening, are not usually the tourist focused and tourist forward events. But those that are important, and then maybe somebody wants to relocate here, what are the types of activities that we have within the community?
So is the community going to the City of Bisbee website to post there?
You'll have a
That's-
link, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we're gonna like put it out there to say, like, this is where you should post your community events now. Because I think a lot of people might still think, oh, I can send it to the Discover Bisbee website and it should go up there, but
Oh,
what
okay,
we're
okay,
saying
that's
is
it.
we should like kind of filter these
Yeah.
things.
So you're
like-
gonna do kind of a tourism oriented on Discover Bisbee and really
Community.
local oriented on
Yes,
the government site, okay?
And have a link back and forth.
Yeah.
It'll look like.
Yeah. So we might say something like, live like a local, like, look at the community calendar here. Yeah, something like that.
Is it there already?
It's already there. So if you go to,
It's not really utilized as much yet.
We do
I mean, some
have
things-
probably a handful of people that do use it, because there's always, you can go to the events and that's where, when you click on the
That's what it
calendar,
is.
it'll go straight to that.
events, yeah. Okay. So we'll be posting about that and like putting out, we even thought about putting out posters locally, just because, just to get the word out that like, this is the new system that we're pushing.
We even did a council meeting too, just to help spread the word.
Put it on Facebook and the
Yeah.
library.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
All
the
for other
library,
business.
yeah, Allison and Jason are totally on board
Yeah.
as well with this, so. Okay, and then lastly, for now, we want to add a filming in Bisbee page to the website. So right now we have just like films that were made in Bisbee. And so this is more geared towards people that are interested in filming in Bisbee. And so we want to create a resource page for people that are interested in that, and like just kind of a checklist of what you need to do to make that happen. Okay.
Alright, so we're talking about our website, but who is our demographic that goes to our website? So I took these screenshots just from June of 2019, so just a couple days ago. And primarily on our website, the age range is about 55 to 64. It typically is usually around that general area. And they're coming from Arizona, which that should be happening. And it's always surprising to see who else falls in line next, like California, Texas, Illinois. And a lot of that's from what the state pushes out to help get people here to Arizona. So they always encourage us as rural to really just, you focus on within Arizona. Phoenix and Tucson is your market. But this, so we keep this in mind when we see the age range though on the website as we start to lay this website out again. So like having that database research tool will be really handy. And so we just take that into consideration. We watch this, every few months to see how it fluctuates. But this is primarily just for the discoverbisbee.com site, and it's different for social media that you'll see.
And then one thing that we really want to focus on for promoting Bisbee in a cheap and free way is press releases. So with our new campaign, we plan to send out press releases to all the contacts that we, and mostly Jen, has garnered through our position there, and tell the story of the creators of Bisbee. So there's going to be content that we can send out to our media contents. We're going to have different posts about it, things like that, all to capture the story of our creators. We also plan to share new businesses as Bisbee grows, send out press releases of the new businesses that have come about, kind of tell people what's going on in town. And then filming in Bisbee, we're going to have that new resource page on our website, which will be a huge help for anyone that's trying to film in this area. And so we're going to highlight, one, all of the shows and movies that have been filmed here recently, and then also our new page in order to give people those resources to know it's easy to come and film here.
We have contact information on that page?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of steps on how to, first steps of what
How to
permits to
reach
get,
it.
who to
Yeah,
contact.
which permits you need, yeah. things
We've
like
always
that.
talked about this, it's a lot of information to gather and to get coordinated, but it's important because the past few months we've had two big filming groups that were here, and so it's something that we could really use to our advantage to help talk about the town and to market it as well.
Let me ask you, on the resource page, does this include set designers, sound people,
Oh, yeah, that's great, yeah.
Local.
sound stage?
wow.
And a lot of them
That's
like to
cool.
use local anyway, they go there first a
Sure.
lot of times. Sometimes there's something with the union that they can't, but
Keep that in mind,
Mhm.
because I want
for
to
sure.
talk to you about how to generate revenue
Yeah, definitely.
doing that. Okay, thank you.
And then also, as Bridget mentioned on the website, with the event info, where you click through, you're going to get that personal story behind that event and the people creating it. And we'll include that in our press releases as well, to just continue the story of who and what makes Bisbee.
Yeah, rather than just, here it's the stair climb, it happens on this weekend, that's it. You go further into it.
Yeah,
Or
and also by focusing on just those events, like the big events that are drawing people here to stay overnight, then we can like put more into it of going a little bit deeper with like developing a story behind it. Or just telling the story behind it, because it's already there.
And then for our social media content, again, we're going to focus on the creators of Bisbee. We recently did a post featuring Jason and the interview we did of him, of the creator, but also Bisbee, the library-winning best small library in America. And we've had a lot of really good engagement from that. We plan to continue to tell that story through our creators. And that kind of lines in with the next point. We hired a photographer, Julius, before we got the position, and we have a ton of photos that he took that we weren't even able to utilize. And so we have a lot of landscape photos of that, and also our creators' photos. He got a ton, kind of what you saw in the beginning, a ton of those photos of the people of Bisbee, and we're gonna be able to use those with our Bisbee creators as well. We also plan to highlight itineraries for the area, so creating these visitor profiles based on if you're traveling for business, if you have a pet, if you're traveling with a family, you wanna hike and get outdoors, what can you do when you get here, and really push those so people know all of the activities that we have in the area. Major events focusing on the overnight guests and really promoting those and again telling that story. And then we want to create some user-generated content. So by pushing this Bisbee visitor hashtag, we'll have the people who come through share their experience and share what they did and be able to continuously post that on our sites and show people what you can do when you're here and the type of experiences that they're having. We also, along with our creators and highlighting this local flavor, really want to push a local hashtag. I think Rob did something with this before, so it's kind of established already a little bit, but the hashtag Bisbee Local and having locals tell their story. And we have the already hashtag iBisbee on our website, and I think that has over 1,000 posts on there and is doing really successful. So all of these will go together, but it's just more content that we can share. And then we also plan to partner with social media influencers. So we'll find people who either we have contacts from working with them before, or kind of find people who are coming through and get them to either do takeovers or reshare their posts and continue to promote Bisbee through other people's writing, because that tends to go a lot further. And I think this is our newsletter page, maybe? Blogs and newsletters, okay. Was that our?
Your news releases, will that be a continuous thing?
Our press releases, yeah.
And press releases.
And then our newsletters will also do monthly ones of that, highlighting the events, our blogs, maybe the creator of that month, different things that could go in there. And then, sorry, I'm trying to see if it was our demographics.
Electronic newsletters.
Yeah, they will be. They'll be sent out to all of our media contacts that we've garnered.
How many do we have on our news?
We have, I think 5,800,
Yeah.
almost
So that goes up.
6,000.
Subscribers.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then we'll focus on the creators of Bisbee, work into the content to link back to the website. On top of our blogs, I'll be writing some every month, but then we plan to partner with different bloggers, again, to share the story, get another person's perspective and writing in there. And we plan to have about 2 of those a month. And then, again, blogs about our itineraries that we'll be building that focus on the brand pillars that AOT put out through the state. Outdoors, wellness, culture and arts, history and heritage, entertainment, food, drink, families, events. I think it's really difficult to know what to do as a family when you come to Bisbee at first. And so being able to develop that itinerary and tell people that it is a family-friendly place, and also with our hotel search showing you what is kid-friendly, that'll help hopefully get different types of visitors here as well. And then the last blank slide, it doesn't show up on here unfortunately, but it was our social demographic. So on our social site, we have a much younger demographic. You can talk about this if you want to, if you can see it.
Yeah, it's just typically, it's about age range early 30s to 40s is who's on our Instagram and our Facebook page. So usually our messages are geared towards that age group, a little bit different than the website, not necessarily, but just, again, just watch to see who's really looking at it. And more interesting enough, so on our website, most hits come from Phoenix, and through social media, the biggest ones is from Tucson. So it's just interesting to see how that's into play.
That's interesting.
So we're always watching it to see. And, so for example, I took 2 screenshots. We just have done 3 posts maybe since we've been back. And it shows that it's already 1,200% reach, like higher than it was before, and like 3,700% more engagement. So it's important for us to have a presence on social media.
Well, oh.
I think that was the Jason post that we did with the
Yeah.
library.
Here, I wish I had it.
So
Yeah,
if you want to go to our website or our social, we've posted already about one of our Bisbee creators. And online, for Instagram, we got 169 likes and a lot of engagement from that. And on Facebook, we got 203 likes and 31 shares. So it's 31 people beyond our site who were sharing it to all of their friends. And I think, I don't remember exactly what the engagement was, but I think it was over 1,000 people, or reach, I mean. And then it's Yeah, it's done really well.
So on our website page where we had, there was a section on there before called Meet the Locals, just black and white photos that we had, and you clicked on it and there was just a quick snapshot of who that local was, a little bit about their background. So what we've done this time is we've already changed it to called Bisbee Creators. So it's our whole campaign about those that make Bisbee out of the ordinary, or the creators and makers here. So Jason's our first test example that we did.
Now, who is Jason?
Jason Makoviak is the manager of the library. And so what we did is we also, because they won that amazing accolade recently, that was a way to tie in then the story at the library. So we've got it featured here, you can read more about it, and then it links out to that article, which is, to have those two-way links are really important for your website. So we'll start building this with other creators in town as we get their stories. And from the beginning, I was showing you, if we click over to the photos.
Oh, okay.
So with Julius, we have that bank of photos that we've already paid for from previous, like a year and a half ago. We have all these to work with already, so we're gonna go through and interview these creators and makers in town to get their stories and to feature them. But the point is as for example, when I'm in my shop, people come in, I chat them up, where are you from, are you enjoying Bisbee? And a lot of times their story goes back to somebody they met in town is making their stay important. So that's why we thought by shifting this and adding that personal touch to your experience, that's what people are taking away with them. So rather than just saying, hey, you can come do the mine tour, obviously you can come do that. But do you know you're gonna probably maybe connect with the guy giving the mine tour? Maybe it's somebody that served you at one of the restaurants. It's just, we have such creative and interesting people here that they're leaving that impression upon people when they leave. So therefore, why not to kind of show them that before they get here?
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, or we can talk about the interview questions too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so we have those photos from the photographer you work with, but we also are going to plan on developing more of these, or taking more photos of people, interviewing people. So we want to invite people to like nominate people, or to say like, I want to be interviewed and photographed and featured on the Bisbee creators. So we developed an interview for people to do, so if you guys are interested, we'll give you some of these as well to nominate people.
Sometimes you don't want to tell your own story, but somebody might have an interesting one. You're like, hey, you should go follow up with so-and-so, because they might have something you want to talk about. Well, I'm sorry these slides aren't showing up really. Maybe it's Mac to PC communication, we're lacking. So I'm going to talk to you guys now about just the Rural Marketing Cooperative Grant. So everything we've talked about previously is everything we can do without costing advertising dollars. It's still paying us to do it.
Are you tying in to the county's program at all?
As far as...
Oh, with Amanda?
CCGC?
Are you tying into, aren't they listing Bisbee as arts and culture?
I think they're working on doing something like that, yeah. And we'll definitely communicate back and forth on how we can work together to tell that message both ways, countywide and then citywide too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. So the Arizona Office of Tourism Rural Marketing Cooperative Grant that we submitted back at the first part of July, we are awarded what we asked for, which is $28,000 worth of advertising, which is kind of using up the entire budget for this year, but that's great. So what we did.
Now, do we match that dollar for dollar?
No, so what it is then it doubles our money there with them, so then essentially it's $28,000 times 2. So that's how much advertising
$56,000.
is the value of the advertising funds.
So that's your advertising budget for the year?
Yep.
It's 56,000.
Yeah, through their program. We don't get to pick and, we get to pick and choose.
So we have $2,000 left.
Wait a minute, how much of that 56,000 can you direct to media that you want to use?
We can within their parameters. So we've already selected our choices, which I'll leave this with you so you can see what we, yep. So specifically, so for example, the first one we have coming up, everything I put was later into spring because I didn't know who was going to be in the position. So I didn't want ads due right up front with nobody to take care of it. So the first one is through TripAdvisor, and these are all digital campaigns. And they're really pushing for us doing digital marketing now because you can really track those numbers. So for example, starting October, we're going to have a TripAdvisor. It's called the Behavioral Targeting Campaign, and this is for Arizona. So the campaign typically costs $8,000. This is for 2 months only, but our cost is only $4,000. so we can get a half rate.
And that will appear where?
So this is gonna be through online tripadvisor.com. When you're on there searching, let's say we're gonna go to Arizona, all of a sudden we get, so I put listed on there, there's banner sizes, we have, this is all something, sorry.
What happened to it?
I know.
English in there.
It's right here, so we have, so different banners, so when you're looking at a website, there's always advertisements run at the top, run to the right-hand side, down below, all over. So then we work with them to see who's already looked at Arizona. So it's creeping away because we're always tracking all your clicks, and so we're getting your behavior, like, okay, you went to Arizona, you're looking maybe southern Arizona. Then they get a Bisbee ad in front of them. That ad, now if they click on it, it can take them directly to our bookings page, it can take them to our events page, we can tell it to wherever we want them to click through to. So what's great is we've had great success with TripAdvisor in the past, which is why I picked this again. And so they'll help us track it and show us the success of the campaign as well. And so what I would do is before, if we're doing for October, November, they say typically someone's gonna book out their stay, their vacation maybe 1 to 2 months ahead of time. So now, because we want to fill in that gap in the wintertime, right? We're busy for the fall, we're busy for spring, cool. If we're looking around, getting ready to plan after the holidays, that's hopefully what's resulting from this. So then we have this same campaign that's gonna run again in the springtime, like May, June, and I have it here, I'll leave this with you.
So in other words, we're gonna spend $8,000 with TripAdvisor.
4,000, well, yeah, 8,000, 4,000 of our money.
4,000 per slot.
Yeah.
And where will that, so people will then go to the TripAdvisor website?
Yep.
Is that how they access this?
Yes. Correct. So there's other campaigns similar to this, but it's all Arizona based, so we're not out amongst everywhere else. So we're really honing in more directly, and then we can work with these advertisers and really get specifically like demographics, we can get age, we can get zip codes, we can get, so my next slide is, the next one, my slide here on my tiny computer, like a geo-targeted display ad. So this is another campaign different. This one would typically cost $10,000 for 2 months. Our cost is $5,000. It's great that the state is able to really help offset the cost for us for these things, as we can't afford this. I mean, that's hard. But it's important that we advertise in these platforms. So like a geo-targeted, let's say you landed in Arizona, you flew in, and you're in a certain area, it's this digital area, then it knows you're there because of your phone and you're dialed in by your locations. Again, morality issues, it's a little bit creepy. But we can really target you and say like, oh hey, you flew into Tucson. Bisbee's just, an hour and a half away, or whatever message we want to say on there. So again, it's just another way that we can reach people. Again, we can pick zip codes to hit. We can say Scottsdale. These 10 zip codes within Scottsdale, they're going to get this message when they open up their phone and click on the news. So these are the types of things that we're going to be advertising in. We don't have them to show yet. We're working with them to see, okay, well, what's the size? What should it say? Are we going to have them say book now? Is it going to say it's cooler here?
Now, how do you get to this page?
So this one would be on your cell phone, and this is through Republic Media, which is out of Phoenix. They have lots of different news outlets, those sites, so azcentral.com is one of them.
Okay.
So when you wake up in the morning and you're like, hey, I'm gonna check the news, and you're in one of these zones that we've said that we're gonna target, then it has a message that pops up of like, when's the last time you came down to Bisbee? Or whatever we want the message to say. And so that's how it will look, and we can make it look however it wants, but it's on your cell phone, is what this specific campaign is, if that makes sense.
And you're
I
gonna
get that
run this
often.
in
Yeah.
May and June?
It happens all the time to us, we don't really realize sometimes that that's what they're doing.
And you're doing it in May and June is when you're gonna run this?
So this one will be hopefully to get that visitor, so we're targeting Phoenix, and the message will likely be, it's cooler here, or escape the heat, come down. So something like that, and then click on it, and it'll, again, come right to our bookings page. To hopefully result in them booking that overnight stay.
It comes to our booking page,
We're just, like
our hotels.
Hotels.
Where to stay.
our hotel
Yeah.
page.
Yeah, where to stay.
It doesn't come to a page describing what Bisbee is.
It could, maybe we could tell it to go anywhere. But typically, I think the less clicks people have to do, then it could result into then booking that hotel. But we can, I've had them before in these campaigns, yeah, go to different pages for different reasons.
Have we used this before?
not geo-targeting, this is a new one, but we've done the TripAdvisor ones before. So I'm excited to see what this is, and how it's gonna perform, and the state's really good about working with us to really track those numbers. So then we can do quarterly reportings to staff and to council and to merchants to show how these are performing. But it's just great that we're able to take advantage of it at such a more economic level than
Yes.
we could on our
Yeah,
own.
but we go through our budget in no time.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, we can talk more about this another time, but we're excited that these are all coming up. Our logo is there. But
There it is.
But that's the breakdown of what we have now. There's not really visuals that show yet, because we're really getting our minds around what the message was gonna be, and then picking and seeing who we're targeting, how it's gonna look, what sizes of these ads are, and then we'll be able to show you then what it looks like.
Yeah, so we're gonna be developing those TripAdvisor ads very soon, and those will be going out October, right? Yeah.
Let's open it up for questions. Denise, you got any questions?
Not at this moment.
Carrie?
Well, I'm just, again, like on the first iBisbee campaign, I know at the museum, we rely on predominantly older people, or younger people with their older people, and that they're not forgotten in this campaign. I mean, it was interesting that the website and the social media split. And I fully understand that, because I don't like Facebook and Twitter and things. But I just don't want that to be forgotten again.
I think that's a real benefit of our new campaign
Yeah.
with the creators, is because it's
We
all
wanna
different
show
people, all
people.
different ages.
I love that,
And
because
be really like conscious about
Yeah.
that, to show not just young people or.
it's
I think-
an interesting twist on what they tried to do a while back on civic tourism, where the community is driving the tourism effort rather than being the accidental tourism destination. And what you guys have done is brought in kind of that whole creative piece to lay on top of it. So it's like civic tourism better.
I mean, talk about Ted's reading a book recently about how to love your city, and it's important to get your community behind that. And once your community loves your place, then they're ambassadors of that too, and they're more likely then to really connect with people. That
Well,
are
we're
visiting.
driving it, we're driving it as
Exactly.
residents rather
Mhm.
than
Yep.
being, exposed to it and having it put on us.
And then benefit, if the visitor then turns into somebody who moves here, that's the population. And that's also ultimately, I think, a goal.
And even though we're sort of defunct at the moment, I'd like to see this blend somehow into an arts and culture district recognition.
Are you doing anything with Madden Media?
Well, so Tucson Guide is a big publication that came out, and that's produced by Madden Media. So quite a few of us merchants, I know Sloan had a big part with this too, with the art in iBisbee, to really talk about the arts. So we kind of pulled our resources together to really have a foothold in that publication this time around, since the city wasn't really able to finance it this time around, but we'll continue to use Madden as a partner for sure.
And a bunch of us are doing
Yeah.
KVOA too, so.
So everyone is helping to kind of fill in the gaps where the city's not gonna be able to this year, but I think next year we can really champion again for the importance of
The
some
Madden
advertising dollars.
saleswoman said that Tombstone was shocked that there was so much Bisbee. They were kind of upset because Bisbee sort of took the magazine over this time.
Yeah, but they're great, and I'm working with Katie, who is the new sales
Yeah, she's
rep there, and they've really thrown us a bone now through social media too. They do all these posts for us. We haven't asked for that. I mean, they're a great partner, and they really like working with Bisbee, so I appreciate that.
Kathy, you have questions?
Is that it for that's not all we have for AOT?
No, there's more here, but no.
Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
I'll
I'm
let
just
it
gonna show you like
yeah.
a couple that are.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
Yeah, so
No.
here's the exact ones, so
cool.
you guys can keep that.
Yeah, my question, I guess, was, you said that it's about age ranges. You said that 55 to 64 was Facebook, was
The website.
the website. And then 30 to 55, 30 to 40 was Instagram. How do we get those people that are over 64 and those people that are between 40 and 55?
And it'll fluctuate throughout,
I
it's
mean,
just that was
yeah, you
recent.
need
There was
see
still
that
a percentage of over 65.
Yeah, you get that whole age
Yeah.
range,
Yeah.
we were just kind of like saying, this is
I was
the
just
most
curious if there was like
concentrated.
some other social media thing
And it'll
that,
fluctuate because who's looking at our site when they're looking to book. So like let's say when we get the spring visitors that are typically from the Midwest, that age range is gonna shift a little bit when they're looking in January. So it's, okay.
Our Instagram is younger than our Facebook as
Right.
well, and so we're gonna post reflecting that also.
And a tool we can use is if we work with another blogger or say a social media influencer that has specific followers themselves, that will bring a different demographic into that world.
Explain to me what a social media influencer, I mean, I've got a,
It's a social
I
media
did major in
influencer.
marketing many years ago. I think it was 60 years ago, but
It's anybody who has a lot of followers on social media. So
give me an
say
example.
Instagram.
They have 50,000 followers and they share about a vacation they went on, and so someone sees their posts and they see these photos and then they look into
Rachel
Bisbee.
Maddow.
Would your blogger be a local blogger, or
Anybody
are you
can be
looking for
anywhere.
one?
You
I
would
just
look
took a bunch of
for
bloggers
all
to
over,
see.
like guest bloggers. So we
Yeah.
would write some of the
Interesting.
blogs, but then we would invite people to be
Like
a
how?
guest blogger for like, you wanna write one blog about this
We
subject.
get people that, well, contact us at the museum asking to get in free so they
Yeah.
can blog about it.
And
Oh, yeah.
usually we work with the Arizona Office of Tourism and they'll vet bloggers and influencers for us. They help to limit it down because a lot of people claim they are.
Right.
And it's very easy to claim that, but you can really see through some of the background and see their
I like that you're
engagement, and
taking
see
it
their
on.
followers. Yeah, so we can go through them first and just say, hey, who's the top 5 that we should be working with right now? And then offer to have them come stay, and that's how that kind of travel writer turns into a great story. That's how we can work with that.
Now,
And
do you have
travel
enough
writer,
money?
family on blogging.
You're spending your entire budget on media, on this advertising you showed us. I just looked at your list.
Yes, yes.
Okay, now what are you gonna do for money for people who wanted, the writers who come to town and things like
I
that?
asked really nicely our
Okay.
partners that we work with to
Mhm.
see if they could offer
Put it in a
out
hotel or
services.
a dinner and that type of
And
thing.
sometimes it translates into they get a direct mention, sometimes it doesn't, but for the overall good of that purpose of that article. And those that we work with know how beneficial that is.
We've been
So
doing that
luckily
for,
we've got a
we've
great
been doing that for a
group.
long time.
Mhm.
Yep.
Comping attractions, comping meals, comping, I know Brenda was doing that when you
Yeah.
were gone.
And it's a lot of work to coordinate that,
Yeah.
but I think it's really worth it because we've gotten some great articles from that.
And we've also had bloggers come through before, and we haven't really taken advantage of sharing their stories on our site, so we have content from before that we could be able to share. So like, I think we had a family or a mom come through with her kids, and she wrote about that, and we didn't post that on our website yet, but we have that content to pull from as
I've
well.
seen the past 8 months, there's so much content out there, we're trying to pull it, like, oh my god, these stories happened, we didn't personally, we weren't there to share it, but we'll reshare that now. So the information is there.
I have, one thing that is missing, I think, and I understand why it's missing, but I'm wondering if it's something that somehow we can work in, and that's the safety of Bisbee. It's a very important issue that we, anytime there's an incident south of the border, and our tourism drops off, and us being 6 miles, I know of a number of people, you know, that just look at it and go, Bisbee, this sounds so cool, where
Yeah.
exactly is it? And they go, whoa.
Well, this is
I'm not
great,
going
so,
there.
and this is something we work with the county with, is super helpful because they have,
Gen X.
you know, the steering committee, we've got the county supervisors that can really help take that message out further than we can. Typically, at the visitor center before we field calls, there wasn't as much of, was it safety, we'd get them once in a while, but on the county levels where we definitely feel that.
Yes,
Yep, for sure, and that's important, yeah.
yes.
And I think our marketing efforts will show the safety behind that as well. You're hearing from locals who are here all the time and who don't experience any danger or issues, and
Absolutely.
they're perfectly fine being here and
It's
doing well.
It actually makes me think of something that we forgot to mention too, which was that we are planning on developing a relocation packet that would be a PDF download. So in that,
Yeah.
I was
that is
gonna
a
ask
perfect-
about that.
We forgot to put it in there, but that's the perfect place to talk about the safety, to talk about expectations of what it's like to live in this
Our
community.
relationship with
Or to
Mexico.
cross, yeah,
Yeah.
to go
Yeah.
across, things like that.
That's really essential because one of the things that this campaign will help is people who are interested in retiring,
Yeah,
looking at Bisbee as a potential retirement place.
yeah.
And I think it's really important that that's part of our thing. I mean,
I got a question on that. In the last, I think, 3 or 4 months, I've gotten 4 or 5 phone calls out of the blue about people wanting to move to Bisbee, come to Bisbee, And what do I think about it? Are you looking at, instead of just me answering that, I say, go here and there's all kinds of stuff for you, or do, I was just surprised because I'm a museum director, I'm not a tourism manager
It
or
would be
anything
great.
else, and
that's great, so.
and they're
once we
finding
get
my
that-
number online somehow, I
Yeah,
guess.
and they're like, oh, you already live and work there, so we're gonna ask you directly, you're not the tourism department, right? Because.
I get phone calls
They'll
like that
sugarcoat
too,
it.
from the shop, are people gonna be
Uh-huh.
open Sunday?
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
now I can say yes, 10 years ago, it's like.
No, but this is more than just are you open on a day, it's, you know, we're gonna be coming there in, you know, October, and we're thinking about moving there, what do you think about it? And it's kind of odd, because I didn't get those calls before.
Well, I think just generally, things have, and that's why we've shifted this, our message, is because that's important to people now, is to really connect to that community.
Mhm.
So to see that, and that's why I thought about that when, in my shop, listening to people, what they're taking away from Bisbee. It wasn't, I had a great meal, but then they connected with like the server, or somebody that they're sitting next to that was a local, I'm like, that was the bigger message.
They'll come and visit me,
Mm-hmm, yeah.
but when this is up, what we can do is like give our opinions, and I'm always very positive, because I've got a great job here. But we can always say, go here, and I'll give you even more information.
Yeah, exactly. So it'd be a tool for everyone to use, just so we don't have to keep repeating, here, go here. Yeah, definitely. We want to have all that information available, and we've talked about it a lot. It's just, it's a lot of work to get that on there, but it's important for it to live somewhere within that site.
Joan, do you have any questions as a group?
I did and I have already forgotten.
Okay. The,
It happens.
one of the things that Rob Page's dad is sick, so he's not here tonight. I've talked to Rob, and I've talked to Kathy. There's a desire of the business community in Bisbee to see a presentation like this. There's also a desire to understand the city manager's views on tourism. One of the things that we're thinking about is you making a presentation, which would have to be more pulled together than that. I mean, we have to show them sample ads and things like that.
No Macintosh.
Just go to our website.
But no,
Yes.
no, what we're thinking of doing is having, at our October meeting in the iBisbee committee, a meeting for the business community, because this is a perfect room for it. We can do the visuals and we can do this, but a presentation about the marketing plan for Bisbee. Would that fit into your schedules if we did something?
We worked into our proposal that we would give quarterly reportings to council and whoever wants to go. So I would like to keep it maybe within that, because that way council's updated, anybody can go to that meeting too and see then. And we'll have samples as this campaign keeps growing. We'll have numbers, we'll have photos.
I was gonna suggest that we
We
do
do it at
it
city council
at a council meeting, invite the business.
and invite the business
Yeah.
community. Makes sense.
Could it be a special meeting so that we don't have all the other stuff? Because it could be long if merchants want, I mean, I would like to see the merchants are really exciting.
I can look at putting it at 5:30.
Yeah, like a special session where people could
Yeah, work
actually
session.
ask a question or, you know, ask.
That's a work
That's
session.
good,
Yeah.
Stanley, there's two of us for sure that won't be here for iBisbee in October.
Right, I know
So
that.
we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
And,
So we would like to share it.
and people are excited, it's not like a derogatory thing at all.
No, and I think it's important for us to show what's happening because we're using so many locals within this campaign anyway that I want them to feel a part of it and to ask questions.
Well, and
about it,
some of
for
these
sure.
people will be your makers,
Mhm,
because the people that are really
exactly.
interested are the ones that should really get kind of folded in
Definitely.
Yeah,
to
we
that.
wanted to get them excited about
Yeah.
it, for sure.
I think it's a great campaign, I really like it.
I like
Great.
Too.
Thank you, thank you.
Nicely.
Stan-
We're excited about it, so.
Even though it's
Yeah.
kind of white,
Yeah.
Is that not doing it?
We wanted to go away
But I
from
like the
colors.
thought you
Yeah,
put
yeah,
into
sure,
it.
we're in a different one.
I like the thought you put into it, and I like the
Minimalistic.
perspective you took.
Stan, could I say something?
Sure, Joan.
I just wanted to, I love the idea of talking to the people here that actually have created things and so on. And one thing that I have noticed in the past year is that there are not only are people calling, you know, people that live here, but people that move here, their friends come and then they get a house and move here. So I think that is a perfect way to get people in here.
Yeah.
Because once they
yeah.
visit, then they, you know, maybe That's what happened to me, that's how I
And sometimes
got
they
it.
can't describe it,
Yeah.
they don't know how to describe it, but they feel it and they wanna be here.
Yes,
They still wanna be a
exactly.
part of it.
Exactly.
I think your slogan, out of the ordinary, is very good.
Good.
I mean, really,
We toyed
really,
with that before too. Didn't we?
Yeah.
We toyed with
We
that.
kind of,
Yeah,
we
talked
did,
about it
yeah.
before,
We
but I
thought,
thought it was time now for it.
Well, what's nice about it is you had all these little pieces that were out of the ordinary, and you took them all and
Yep.
back into, boop, that's what it is.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
nice, I like it a lot.
To simplify
Yeah.
and just like,
Yeah,
here's
it's the next
strong,
step.
one thing, like, this is what it is.
It's been interesting to see the first campaign for the past couple of years and how it's done and the feedback, and to see it from all different, from local, from the state, from wherever, so then to see it now kind of tunnel into another version of itself will be interesting.
And I would say just one more thing about sharing people's stories that I've already seen with what we shared with Jason, is when those people share his story, like people get really excited to share a story about somebody they know.
Yes.
And it's like,
It's the ripple effect.
And
yeah,
it's not an advertisement, it's an actual story that people connect with.
yeah, it's free advertising.
Definitely, definitely. And it's great, and people were commenting already, if you go to our Facebook on Jason's story about how I grew up in Bisbee, I love it so much there, I went to the library as a kid, and just all those stories of people that, oh, I need to come visit there, and we didn't work into a lot of the history of the library yet, into
Yeah.
that post, but that's how we can utilize that, to really talk about the town, talk about the people, and talk about what people might feel when they come here.
and when did you put that up?
2 days ago?
And how many people have already gone to see it?
169 on Instagram, and that's just likes, that's not views either.
These are likes.
Yeah,
So Facebook has reached over 3,800 people so far. Wow. And then,
In 2 days. Or
and
10.
1,600 people reached on Instagram.
Ladies, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions of the iBisbee committee?
I really like it, I like the idea.
It's,
I don't have questions.
it's really good, and I think David, having a special council or that 5:30 meeting and inviting the business community would be great.
And this will be after then that TripAdvisor run, because then we can really show the results from that
Yeah,
specific
that's-
campaign. Maybe we could do something right after that.
But
Cool.
we're
Cool.
very
Let's do
grateful,
it
so.
when we have
Thank
something.
you. Yeah, I'll give it actually.
Yeah.
Bridget,
Did,
No comment.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll give one of these interviews too, so.
Thank you. Okay, because I got a lot of
There's my new email, so.
Yeah.
Well, other business cards and all that.
Oh, you're not Maudie Owen?
No.
Gracias.
The dog, cat, and mouse.
She did not, so.
Who's the dog and who's the cat and who's the mouse?
That's what that was the first
Yeah,
one.
she's
figured Jim was the dog.
You're always gonna be the dog, but you know you are.
And we're gonna have drinks at the house. She can walk.
Pete Goldblum.
Got one,
No,
thank you. Oh, these are your cards?
we all have different ones.
No, you all have your own
So
cards.
Jim's the little dog, and I've got the little mouse.
Oh, very nice, very
She
nice.
is a D-list.
I forgot my card.
Are you still at your regular,
Current standard.
you're still at your regular?
No, actually mine is Bridget.
Okay, I'll change
But I
mine.
think I emailed you from it.
You might have, but I'm so
Yeah.
used to just typing your name in.
It's okay, I checked both.
Okay, I'll switch mine.
I want to move on with the iBisbee committee.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you very much, thank you,
We
Jim.
are doing stuff with non-curriculum. So when you have time, we'll talk
Bye, guys.
about it.
Well, that was encouraging.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very, very nice.
It's well needed.
Yeah, we've seen.
I like,
I don't know about you.
you know, we could have spent a lot of money to get to Bisbee out of the
That's because
ordinary.
nobody did shit since
Yeah.
November.
We could have spent a heck of a lot of money. Okay. I want to move on to our agenda items, if I may, which is a discussion and possible action regarding the iBisbee committee meeting on a quarterly basis. We've been meeting monthly, and the question really on the table is, we're economic development, I think we've reached the conclusion, is our tourism base. And we're not gonna see meaningful economic development in terms of businesses coming to Bisbee unless, you know, we get lucky. And luck plays a big role in things. And the question now is to meet quarterly Or as Carrie raised the question as we drove over, or maybe not meet at all. So the question is, what would you all like to do?
Well, I think, you know, everybody talks about we have to expand our economic base outside of tourism, and I've heard this for a really long time. And I don't think a committee can make that happen. But I do think what Jen and Bridget and Rachel are doing is twisting tourism to a more personal, more community-oriented, more relocation, more bring people here. And I think that right now, perhaps kind of seed to work to that, and then maybe in a year or two, is there a place for an economic development council? I think we started out, we got some things done, we got this branding thing started. I don't think we've done very much lately. Things we've recommended have not been really accepted. And I think that maybe we should give a lot of effort and attention to the marketing thing, especially with their emphasis on relocation and coming to Bisbee and moving to Bisbee. And let the iBisbee committee have a vacation or go to sleep or be put to sleep or...
I agree.
What do you think, Kathy? Denise agrees.
Well, I still think there's something to be discussed about the tourism manager position.
Yes.
You and I have talked about that. I'm not convinced that we need their full-time tourism manager with the marketing going on. And the money might be able to be used, part of the money could be used for advertising. But that's something that should be discussed, because it's just sort of happened, you know, Steve had this idea and it happened, but we should probably talk about it more. The other thing I was a little disappointed in was when I brought up Airbnbs and the impact on the quality of life here. Nobody seemed interested in dealing with it, and nobody's dealing with it. And we can see what happened to Sedona. So we can close our eyes, but in the meantime, people are buying up houses, and once they buy them, you can't tell them they can't have them. But you can rezone neighborhoods and allow a maximum number of Airbnbs in the neighborhood. So there are things you can do, and I feel like we're just sort of putting our heads in the sand. But
Yeah, but my question to you is on a volunteer committee. You said you brought it up and nobody is acting on it. But in a volunteer committee like iBisbee, if you bring it up, if anything's going to get done, you're going to have to act on it.
well, nobody else on the committee
Yeah.
seemed to think it affected the quality of life of our town, and I think it
You
massively
would have a
affects
feel
it.
as the mayor. Are people raising concerns about the Airbnb
There's no
type
housing.
housing?
And there's no housing in
Yes.
Old Bisbee.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've seen a million posts on Facebook, well, I'm having to leave Bisbee because I can't find any housing. I've seen, you know, like 10 posts a week, just from the people that I see post, where people are leaving town because they can't find a place to live. And it's, you know, and the sad thing is Old Bisbee has gotten more expensive, and that's where all the Airbnbs are. So half the rentals are now Airbnbs. So-
Denise, are you still with no rental market?
I have 2 right now as of today.
And how much are they and where are they?
I don't, it's in Bisbee, that's all I know. I don't have that, I
Oh.
didn't print that
No
up, but
address or anything?
no. They're just two
Two.
homes or buildings that are not commercial, this is just residential rentals that are still active. Those are the ones that are listed to the MLS. There could be
Mhm.
more that advertise privately, so there are just 2 at this moment. 7 have been sold, you know, the rental buildings were sold. And then
There was a
11
couple for rent on Brophy, those may be those.
Yeah, it could be.
And nobody's gonna.
Nobody's
rent
gonna rent there because of the cats.
Um,
It's rent a kitty box.
If we move to a quarterly meeting, and we then discuss on the agenda items, such things as this Airbnb thing, and really flesh out so we understand where the issues are arising. And in terms of the visitor center, that's one that obviously is the city manager's purview. David, the question that was raised, and it's a good one, do we really need a visitors director
Teresa and I have had long talks.
Oh,
about
okay,
this,
okay.
and I will say that I suggest everybody just,
Wait and cool it.
I do not, I'm not sure that the city would be hiring a full-time manager at this point.
How much money do we have allocated in this budget, do you know? I mean, we already have half of Brenda.
Okay, but David is, what David's saying is that he's working on it. He understands the situation. He understands the situation.
I was just concerned because Steve Pauken totally believes in having
He's
boots on the ground.
Steve
And
is
that
gone.
concerned me.
Steve is gone.
That's why I, as you recall, said to you and other people, let's pull back and let
Let it take its course.
let him leave.
He's gone. But if we met quarterly, we then could be able to seriously discuss the Airbnb problem as an
Let's
example.
discuss it for an hour and then see each other in 3 months.
No, I don't think so.
My experience on commissions is when they meet every 3 months, nothing gets done, but that's just my experience.
My problem is that, as I look at it, and I've been really thinking about this, I mean, we started off with a big bang. I mean, and Denise, you weren't here, but obviously Carrie and Kathy were. We started off saying, our advertising looks lousy. It looks like it's circa in 1987.
As it was.
And we then promoted and got a rebranding campaign done, and Carrie and Kathy worked on that. And that's an example where we split off and had people working.
Mm-hmm.
We also then brought in the ULI people, which was that was the Urban Land Institute, who did a major report on Bisbee, and that was well received. But then we got really bogged down on senior housing thing and really got troubled there. But we've not really been able to grapple with anything dealing with economic development. Economic development has got, I mean, we can enhance economic development if we know people are looking to settle in Bisbee. But to go out and bring companies into town is extremely difficult. So the question is, if we met quarterly and then reassessed what we want to do, maybe a way to find common ground there. What do you think, Karen? Does that make sense?
Not to me, really.
Okay. Talk.
I mean, I agree that, you know, the visitor center manager, supervisor position is still out there. The Airbnb issue is still out there. But I don't think this committee meeting quarterly addresses that. If we wanted to address that, that's not, in my opinion, the right approach. Because decisions will be all made and done with by the time we meet again.
So I think, are you suggesting that maybe we disband?
Pretty much. I guess if we had a stronger voice, maybe to continue, but once again, when you have volunteer committees, and all of us on this committee are busy with jobs and things, and we've shown over and over again, I've seen it over and over again for several decades now in this community, it takes more than one person to sustain something for a long period of time. That one person that takes that and runs with it eventually burns out with it. And I think we've done some good, but I don't think that our voice is strong in the visitor center manager thing coming up. I do think Airbnb is a concern, because I'm hearing that too, but I don't know what we as volunteers on an iBisbee committee, we're going to meet in whatever, in 3 months. I don't see that as a way to approach that solution as a solution.
Let me, man,
Sure, Dave.
I have a question, and it's kind of along the same lines, and I'm not being facetious with it at all. I'm just, you're an advisory committee, which I am personally very grateful for. But when we talk about Airbnbs as an example, the city administration knows, we know on a state level, the problems associated with an Airbnb. So my question to you is, without being facetious, so what are you going to
Well, that,
tell us
that's
about
exactly what
that
I'm
it's a
saying.
problem? We know
That's
it's a
what my
problem.
thought
But there are some
Exactly.
things you can do in Arizona. It's not optimal, but there are still some things that can be done. And it has to do with zoning. And if you let it keep filling up with more Airbnbs, pretty soon you're gonna have 10% private property and 90% Airbnbs.
But I think, Kathy, it might be more effective if individuals concerned about that contact their council person.
But there's the council people are basically volunteers too, and there's nobody on staff
Okay, wait.
that does zoning and stuff. I mean, I just don't see anybody in the city structure.
Okay, assume what you just said is true. Then what are you as a committee, how are you gonna change that?
Well, one of the things would be to learn a little bit more about the zoning thing and probably have to go to the county and talk to them about different zones and neighborhoods. Then you'd have to find out how many Airbnbs are already there.
You're saying I'm asking what
Well, that's
I
what a
know.
committee would do.
In the administration, we understand that and are attempting to do something about it,
But I have.
along with 50 other things.
Okay, I
at the same
understand,
time.
and that's why I'm saying sometimes that's what a commission does, because there's no one on staff who has the time to do it.
That is correct, and that's where I was going with that, is the commission gets out there and they go to the county, and they come up with a report, and then they hand it
Right.
to
That's-
administration and say, the iBisbee committee has
Recommends.
thoroughly
Right.
researched this and recommends the following. But getting together as a committee and telling us what needs to be done isn't the same
Doesn't do it.
thing.
Yeah.
Doesn't do it.
It just seems like it's one of those things that's just gonna keep happening and
Are
we're
you-
gonna look
Okay, I
bad.
guess the bottom line comes back to, it's like when we worked with the rebranding, I did a lot of work on that.
Mhm.
And are you willing to go and do this work, and with some committee help when you ask for it? And then as a committee with voice, present the results.
Well, that's what we did with the rebranding.
But people step forward for doing that.
Well, Rob doesn't care because his restaurants are full, because that's what he said
Okay.
last time, so he obviously doesn't want to
So
work
I
on it.
guess
Um,
the first thing, if I'm understanding you right, we'd have to go into each neighborhood, figure out who's got the Airbnbs, find out if they're out-of-state owners, if they fall into that criteria that,
Well,
You're
yeah,
saying-
first I'd have to learn more about the zoning thing, and Fred and I were gonna talk when he got back from vacation. But I talked to Ken Budge about it too, and he agrees that there are things we can do with zoning. But I'm not an expert on planning and zoning, so,
But wait a
you
minute.
know,
I'm getting a little lost here. The city manager has her capabilities would be, I see where David's coming from, and I understand that. Where the committee would take this on, look at it very carefully, and I can work on that. Look at it very carefully, and then make a recommendation to the mayor and council as to what we believe should be done. And more, not, oh gee, we've got this problem, but here are ways that it could be solved. And then, at that point, it's up to the city manager to take it forward.
No, it's up to the mayor and council.
It's up to the mayor and council to take it. We talk about rezoning, sure. It's up to the mayor and council to take it forward. How
The
does that
city
fit?
manager, absent you, the city manager is the person that would say, I have these questions about B&B and zoning and so forth. I'm going to appoint Joe, you go do this, so-and-so, you go do that, and then you put together a report for me.
And bring it back to me.
And then okay? We're bypassing that. You would be doing that and presenting it actually to me as council liaison for it to go to the mayor and council.
Right, because you're, right,
You
council.
see?
Well, it seems to me we're equipped to do it. Denise, real estate's your world.
Oh, I just have to get, it's a lot of work.
It's getting your head wrapped
I mean,
around all of the laws.
I would have to go onto the Airbnb sites,
Well,
look
I think
up
we can
everybody
pick-
that's doing it, and I'm.
Kathy, what cities in Arizona have the zoning on that now?
I'm not sure,
Yeah,
I've
see,
been
that's a-
reading
that-
about it.
That's a problem, because our legislature has cut our legs out from underneath us on
Right.
Airbnbs.
This is
And
about
it
some
said-
kind of residential level
I
zoning,
totally
where you can
understand.
only have a certain percent.
Kathy,
The legislature has said
right,
that cities have no power to regulate Airbnbs. I just was at League of Cities and
So
Towns.
it's really not
And-
much
and
we
went
could do
through
that
that.
at that
Well,
point.
that's not what I've heard from other people who
So
have
I,
looked into it.
that's what
Hang on.
I'm saying, if there's been any changes,
There have been.
well, this
Yeah,
was
hang
2
on.
weeks ago, but,
hang on.
okay.
Hang on. What David is doing is challenging the committee. If we want to look into this, look into it deeply, and then come up with a report through David to the council. That makes some sense. Because what I'm also hearing, when I got a yes to my question, that this is a community concern.
Huge.
It's huge.
It's huge.
So
But
Kathy,
let me explain now. Just, it's not only, it's a community concern for many different reasons. But my biggest worry about the Airbnbs right now, and I brought it up at League of Cities and Towns and it hadn't even been thought of, is we've got a census coming up next year.
You bet,
Mhm.
you bet.
And every Airbnb that is owned by an outside owner is a vacant structure and counts as 0 for the next 10 years. And,
And that's how we get our money.
and that's how we get our money. And cities like Jerome right now are dying because Jerome is over 50% Airbnbs.
Denise, how bad are you seeing a lot of people buying for Airbnbs?
I have not personally, no.
Okay.
None of my clients have done that. My clients have come and retired here. Most of them are older and have come from different states to retire here, and they're living in their homes. But obviously, from the rental,
Mhm.
there's a lot of Airbnbs out
I
there.
asked a couple of realtors about their experience, and they said a lot of times people don't want to admit that it's an Airbnb, or they buy it and they use it for themselves,
And
but they
then-
Airbnb it, but they don't tell the realtor it's
Well,
gonna.
they run a couple rooms out.
but I have a suggestion, because we're going around here with a lot of hearsay, which is probably accurate, but still it's hearsay. In terms of the committee and, say, the Airbnb issue, it seems like just talking about it as a problem is not getting us anywhere. Kathy, you've talked about new regulations and new things we can do under the state legislature. Would you be willing to research that? If you want help, you can call me.
And me.
Yeah, I would call you probably.
But you
I
take,
mean,
you
find out
take
if
the
we
lead
can-
on that, and I would suggest, give us 2 months.
Well, I'm gonna talk to Fred in the
Yeah.
next week or two, because we were gonna get together.
But you're
'cause
gonna
he's
have,
been
I don't know if
looking
we're
at
gonna
it.
have a quorum at the next iBisbee committee meeting in October.
Let me
Well, we
suggest
probably
this.
won't have one if we're not gonna do it.
No,
Let
but
me
if you
suggest
take
this.
lead on it, then, can I finish?
Sure, I'm sorry.
But I'm saying, if Kathy, who's aware of these ideas and can follow them through, she can call on us for help when we can help her, like we did with the branding thing. Pull the ideas together so that we present a series of actions, of potential actions, rather than a continued discussion that goes in circles. So would you be willing to do that?
Yeah, and I was thinking, we could even pick just one segment of Old Bisbee
Yeah.
Well, I
to do
guess
some numbers, you
another
know.
thing too, like what David was saying, if the state legislature has already yanked the legs out from underneath us, no matter what work we do, it goes nowhere.
They've
So you need
revoked
to
some of
find
the,
out.
well, there's been some new legislation in the last 2 months.
So
And a lot of it's because of the Sedona freak out, because Sedona is just,
So I guess that would be the first place to
I mean,
start,
you're
if we
hearing
can even do
Jerome
anything
freaking
about
I
it.
wouldn't even start now on looking at who owns what and where
No,
they come
not
from.
until we know we can do
I
something
would-
I would
about it.
look
I
at,
wanna clarify the
Yeah.
zoning
So I would say, to continue as an iBisbee committee, if you're willing to take the lead on that, we're willing to help you on that. We can come with a position paper that has, this is what we can do,
Mhm.
these are your options, then present that at an iBisbee committee meeting for David to take to council.
I would
But
like
I-
to suggest that we don't have a meeting in October. We have a meeting in November, and the big thing on the agenda in the November meeting is this whole Airbnb question. That gives us 60 days in which to figure out what we have and what we can and can't do. And then make a decision what we're going to do, given the background information we have in hand. What do you think, ladies?
I agree.
Does that make
Fine.
sense?
If you're willing to take lead,
As
it's gonna be a lot of work, but you're a hard worker.
Well, and there's other people.
As
Yeah,
the
go ahead.
mayor, I on occasion give committees assignments, and I'll send you an email specifically asking that you do this.
Okay,
So therefore, it's
Okay.
official.
And I can
Okay.
help you, just call me.
Yeah,
all
no, I
right.
want
So
to.
then we will
Smile
not
at
have a
work.
meeting in October. We will have a meeting in November,
That's
or
perfect.
this will be on the agenda.
Okay.
Okay, let us go forward then. And then we can decide whether we want to meet quarterly, or
Yeah.
we may have our hands full.
Or we may be tired and feathered and run out of time.
I want to move on to the roundtable discussion. Carrie, are your lights up and running, and
Yes, and
is it exciting?
there's one person that complained twice publicly, but the feedback I've gotten has been very, very positive. We were able to get a little bit more money because the sidewalk is still not well lit at all. We had to move that one light post for the sidewalk back too far because of all the stuff that was underground in Grassy Park. And we're working with the Pages, who are excited about the project. We're working with the Public Works Director. And we are moving forward to putting a second street light on the Convention Center side of that crosswalk between the Convention Center and Grassy Park.
Good.
And I think that's probably one of the most dangerous crosswalks in Bisbee. And to get that lit is, I think, a huge thing. So we're working on that.
Yeah, that's good.
And we'll do the same thing with the funds going through the city of Bisbee, with the museum doing whatever work we can to support it. We get your approval.
I'd also like to put on the agenda, thinking out for our next meeting, is to talk about a relocation of the visitor center and a recommendation then to the mayor and council regarding potential relocation of the visitor center to the city. What do you think, Kathy?
Well, I think AOT, weren't they looking at possibly not requiring that we have Arizona-wide brochures? Because that was one of the reasons
We are in touch with AOT to find out all of their
Right,
new regulations.
Right now.
because actually your little visitor center is adequate if we don't need to have Arizona-wide stuff.
We've gone through this, I've talked to Jen Laurie about it as well. We do ADA compliance through reasonable accommodation, and if you look at the Secretary of Interior guidelines, that's not the issue. The issue is we're 1/4 of the size they would like. Jen felt that was not a problem because they do not require as many things.
Mhm.
Teresa Coleman was talking about putting a kiosk over in the Queen Mine Tour, so there's still a presence there. Nothing is written in stone, it's all just in discussion, but it is being looked at in terms of what AOT requires, and I've been talking with David and basically everybody dealing with tourism that I know.
I mean, the one thing you need in your visitor center is you need signage. The signage is
Well,
not goody,
we have two
because
shot-up pole
people
signs.
think David Russell is the tourism department for Bisbee.
Yeah, yes.
You know,
Yeah.
and he is going and making speeches in Tucson
It's the
and
first
stuff.
one you see when you pull in.
And he's applying for money. So there's a real problem when he looks like the visitor center and we don't.
I think
It's a
the, I think
for-profit,
the,
It doesn't matter.
I think in our November meeting, we can maybe include that, because there may be some more clarification on that before November of what can be done. And if not, maybe we then make recommendations to the mayor and council, because it's clear to me that what we have at the museum is working, and working well. but now that we can't staff it on the weekends and things, I mean, I think I would love to see a relocation of the visitor center to the museum building. I would love to see that.
And Brenda's already there half-time as a city employee.
Okay, but that's something we'll put on our agenda. Is there anything else going on? Denise, what's going on in the real estate market?
Well, I pulled up the stats. I felt like comparing it, the stats from this year to last year at this
Good.
time. And for residential, the volume has gone down by 2%, but the average sale price has gone up 5%. So from last year.
That's the
Yeah.
playoff.
Yeah.
So it's running about national average.
I don't know about the national average.
Yeah,
I just worry about Bisbee.
yeah, of course.
We're out
It's
of
my
the
own little
ordinary.
world, my own little bubble here. The whole national, we're totally different
Ask
from
about
everybody
airline
else.
national
Yeah, right.
averages.
We're different from everybody. We are out of the ordinary for sure.
What about commercial?
Commercial? Yeah, I got commercial too. Let's see what we got.
Because there's a
Commercial.
lot on the market.
Yeah, oh, commercial, hold on. Residential. Commercial, so right now we have 19 active, 13 of which are new, and then we have
Wow.
sold 9
And
within the last 6 months.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, the commercial is starting to move. So, and
Who's
as far
buying?
as the
Out
amount
of towners.
oh yeah,
And
Out of town.
what are they buying for, on spec, what are they buying for?
well, no, the ones downtown, restaurants / bar possibly, right? The American Legion
Yeah.
is one.
The
Residential.
And residential,
Mix.
commercial, like the big buildings with how, apartments on
Yeah,
top.
the one over where the chiropractor used to be, next to Bisbee Tourism.
So it's a
Company.
they're combination buildings.
Yeah.
So you have residential and
They're
business.
gonna live above,
Right.
and then they're gonna rent out the down, and they're from like Phoenix or Tempe or somewhere.
I'm on Chicago. Got lots of land out there, but it's, you know, land is different, that's, you know, you've got.
Love, you
commercial.
gonna have land forever.
Yeah.
There's lots of land in the Sulphur Springs Valley.
Yeah.
Cattle are going.
But,
there's
yeah,
huge,
the
developments that-
inventory is still low for residential.
The inventory is low,
It's still low.
but it's how
And
long is your average time on market speeding up?
Let's see if I have that. I don't have that on this sheet.
I bet you it's speeding up because it's people out of town who think our
guess.
places
Right.
are cheap.
Because the inventory is so low, the ones that we
That's
do
my
have are
guess.
selling quickly.
Our
So
city
we've-
manager just bought a house here.
Yeah, we've sold over, in the last 6 months, 102
Wow.
residential homes. And 4 are pending at this moment, and then it was a total of 144 total, and then of that 102 sold, 4 are pending, and 78 are still active. So,
So there, I don't know the conditions of things that are active, but there are things on the market.
well, it's a mixed bag,
Okay.
and anything decent is going pretty quickly.
Going
They're
quickly.
selling, pretty quickly.
Kathy, downtown business picking up?
No.
But
That
she's
takes care
still
of-
shopping
that takes
It's
care of that.
it's been
That takes
slow.
care of that
Carrie and I
question.
were just talking about, it's been a very painfully
So-
slow.
But
maybe Barbara
Bridget,
can
Jen,
negotiate.
and
Always.
Rachel are coming back, and I think that's.
Yeah, I think it was because we
Turn
didn't
us
have any
around.
promotion for 8 months, you
Well,
know.
they'll turn it around.
So you have anything good in here that we can talk about?
Always, always. And we're having a fundraiser for the animal shelter Sunday, October 20th, and a band from Phoenix, Las Calacas, a cumbia fusion band, is gonna be playing at the dog park. And it's gonna be a lot of fun, we're gonna have Mexican hot dogs and nachos and
Mexican
and
hot dogs.
margaritas and just make it
Real
a
meat?
neighborhood, huh?
Real meat,
No. No,
Fake meat?
vegan,
yeah, vegan.
vegan Mexican hot dogs.
Oh, they're good.
Okay,
I've
just
never heard
checking.
of them.
So vegan Mexican hot dogs and vegan bacon?
I'm
Oh,
on
there's
it.
no bacon. Where'd the bacon come from?
Right.
But Mexican hot dogs were wrapped in bacon.
Well, just
Uh-oh.
the fixings,
Turkey
you
bacon.
know.
So hot dogs with
That's not vegan, Denise. A turkey
Okay.
is an animal.
Oh.
Can
I can't go.
I think on that note, can we have a motion for adjournment?
Yes,
So
I make a
moved.
motion to adjourn.
We all moved the first time.
Oh, come on.
Very good.
You could have margaritas, you wouldn't
The
even notice.
meeting adjourns.
That's very true.